I'm here today with Scott Valentine, the Director of Valé Architects, because we're both speaking later this month at the Architect Success Forum. And for those of you that are keeping score at home, Scott's talk will be on September 25th at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you haven't heard about the Architect Success Forum yet, it's a 5-day virtual event for architects around the world. I'll include a link to the website below, but over the course of 5 days, there will be 12 sessions, and all of those sessions will have a Q&A at the end to make sure that every architect that attends will get the most out of all of the sessions and be able to apply what was presented specifically to their own firm's success. Now, to me, what's interesting about Scott in the context of the Architect Success Forum is that he's the only currently practicing architect who will be speaking. But his experience starting a firm from zero and growing it to international success has earned him, I think, at least an MBA, if not a doctorate, in the business of architecture. Now, Scott, the title of your talk is Niche Marketing for Architects. But I've also run into architects during my nearly 30 years in and around the profession who bristle at the content of building a niche. Have you run into the same thing?
Yeah, I guess it's a common question when we're talking about the subject because I guess there's the apprehension about following a niche, and if we do that, do we limit ourselves to other things? And I guess when you're starting out, that's definitely a concern of someone. So when the talk I'll go into, we'll be talking about how do you go from sort of being a generalist to to a niche architect, and do you have to just do that? And that's, I guess that's the apprehension. Like if I say I do bars, I only do bars, can I do houses, that kind of thing? And that seems to be the apprehension, and it's more about in your marketing, in what you're saying, in the people you're trying to connect with. That's what we'll be talking about. That's the kind of people you want to connect with, and that's where we'll grow your brand in the future. Those upfront things, like a house, it might be a house, it might be a garage, it might be something small, it might be something big, but there's no reason to push those projects away. So I think when we look at people who are apprehensive about going down to do a niche, that's their fear. But the other thing is being in this industry for about 16 years, a lot of firms, and this is part of why I went down the path of a niche, was that a lot of firms have the market changes. There's a sudden
Right.
economy change in the economy, and then they have to shift the whole firm again. Now, this is no different if you're following a niche. I mean, what I try and do is hospitality. That's not happening right now. So, that's sort of the other thing. It's like, do we just want to keep following the market, or do we want to get specialist at something and be, truly remarkable at least doing one thing really well?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think your use of the word apprehension is right on the money, right? They're afraid, they're apprehensive about choosing the niche or drilling down to that. And your example, of course, is right on the money for 2020, right? What a year. I think we've got to put an asterisk on absolutely everything this year. And
Yeah,
so unfortunately your niche, with
tread on water.
hospitality, right, right. And right, you can ride the high of a niche, but sometimes I guess you can bet wrong. But we're in the middle of a historic event. How many times does it actually happen where something will actually be crushed by a historic event like this that we're experiencing right now?
Yeah. So, I think for me during this time, I've just been not worrying about it. Just, it's okay. I've been building a house actually most of this time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what it is at the moment, and we've just got to sort of accept it and find our way out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, and I'm glad I'm glad you are putting your time to good use with the house. But so is that the number one objection then, that the thing that people are afraid of, they're apprehensive about, is maybe number one in limiting themselves, but maybe in conjunction in betting wrong or picking the niche that will go away somehow. Is that the
Yeah,
major
that's
objection?
yeah, that's definitely two of the major objections. But until you sort of dive in and sort of really get into it, um, you won't you kind of don't know that you're actually sort of opening yourself up to like an entire world of things that are happening. You know, there's a niche group of people you need to know. It's all the different. In my case, it's knowing a lot of hoteliers or restaurant
Mhm.
owners or whatever. But if you pick another niche, it's your world starts to circulate around them, and it's yeah, it's more about that whole world than it is about the architecture itself, and you're just putting yourself in that world.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. Now, obviously, you're going to talk more about this at the Architect Success Forum on the 25th, but what's your one best tip for a firm leader that's struggling to gain traction and win the quality of projects that they want and need?
Well, so what I'll be talking about is really my experience and the experiment that is my experience, and I think people can really learn from that. It's not this is how you do it and get $1 million fee or something like that. It's like we tried this, we tried this, we tried this, this worked, this didn't work, and that's what it'll be about. So for people that want to sort of grow, it's branding is for growth, but you need to get projects today. You need to keep going today. So that's about relationships. That's the old, well, basically the traditional ideas of what an architect building a business is. It's relationships and relationships and relationships. So that's the basics, right? We need to get the project right now so that our business can sustain itself. And this will be a subject of my talk, because that's sort of something we went really hard at branding, and it paid off for us in some ways and not in other ways. So, but it's proven, and I'm going to sort of discuss a report from one of the marketing professors in London. But it's basically branding is what creates price elasticity. It creates growth. Is that's the word they like to use in marketing. And I study a lot of marketing now, and less architecture actually. And so that's what's key to growth, but you need to survive today. And so there's a divide on how much effort you need to place in one and the other, and we'll be talking a bit about that. So I guess there's no silver bullet. Branding's what grows you. Getting jobs now, whether you're doing them for less than you'd like to be getting or whatever, is what's going to sustain you. And it's still the long slog. I mean, part of what we were trying to do was like, can we get around this 7-8 year slog of just like eating noodles every night to to sustain our lives? And so that was kind of the experiment and the sort of the thing. And it was like, oh yes, this is working, and then it's kind of not, and that's what the talk will be about. So it's going to take a while. Branding's what will grow your ability to get those better clients, but it will take time. I guess that's the short answer, the long to the short answer.
Well, and I think, again, I think that's the beauty of your talk. You're going to talk about your experiences and the lessons learned from that hard fought experience, right? So and let the architects who are in the audience learn from that experience, maybe learn from your mistakes that you made along the way, and be able to apply that to their own situation. So why don't we try to wrap this up with just one final question? And that question is, what when someone is thinking about wanting to build an architecture practice, what's one question about building that practice that most people don't ask, but they should?
I look, I don't think there's one question, because in my experience, what has happened is you take on a challenge, and it's this little challenge, but then that turns out to be 5 different major challenges. You're like, this is so much harder than I thought it would ever be, and then you go on to the next thing, and it's the same sort of same problem. I'm sure. I don't think at the moment. I don't think I can give you one question, one answer. It's just that everything you thought would be either easy or not that hard is 10 times, 100 times harder than you thought it would ever be. And I wouldn't discourage people from doing it, but I think I'll go through some methods on how you can sort of go from where I was, which was zero. Like, I had no network. I had a portfolio, work for international companies, but I move around the world a lot. So I had no stable network. I had no portfolio work that was my own. And really, really coming from zero. And I think the talk will go into a bit more detail about that. But I think the biggest thing is that every little thing you thought you could do is 10 times harder and has 10 more sub things you need to do. And each one of those 10 things has another, like, it's like, hey, write an email. Oh, I need a copywriter so that it's written really well. Or I want to put an idea out to the world. Oh, so you start typing, and then you end up with an article. Oh, I need a copywriter to make this better. I need an illustrator. I need this, because I want it to be amazing. Because, you know, we love everything to be amazing, don't we, as architects? Nothing can be half-assed.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's.
Does that answer it?
Yeah. That answers it. And I think again, coming all the way back around, right? That's the beauty of it. We'll hear from your experience of going from zero, which, let's face it, there are a lot of people that are starting their own firms, and they'll be from zero, but also any lesson learned from someone that's starting at zero and growing from there can be applied to someone that's at, you know, the second or third step already. So I'm really looking forward to your talk on Friday, September 25th at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to learn a lot from that talk. And so, Scott, I really appreciate you for taking the time and dealing with our time zone issues from the United States all the way to Australia. But that's the beauty of this world that we're in now. So thank you very much for taking the time out to record this conversation with me. And again, anyone else or anyone that's listening to this, if you're listening to it, watching it on LinkedIn, there's a link in the comments section below that you can click on and go to the Architect Success Forum website. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, there's a link in the description for both the Architect Success Forum website and for Scott's Valé Architecture website. So check both of those links out below and click on it. And with that, thanks, Scott. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate your time today. And I can't wait. What's really great is seeing sort of how people react. So you give a talk, and like, how do they react is always the thing that's like the exciting part for me, because they all sort of take it a bit differently, and it's good. It's really the exciting part for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'll be fun to see, and I think people are going to get a lot out of this conversation with you and in your talk. So thanks again, and we'll see everybody Friday, September 25th at 6 p.m. Eastern for Scott's talk, Niche Marketing for Architects. Thanks, Scott.
Bye. Thank you.